Hey Revolutionary, Yelena here. I think it's about time we have the talk. Just kidding. But I do want to get radically honest with you and radically honest about the way we communicate in our most important relationships. What I've started to see is more and more people really having that hard time, with their most intimate, closest relationships. So whether it's with your spouse or significant other, with your parents or your siblings, with your friends or your business partners, it's really having those radical, honest conversations. And, after I read the book Radical Honesty by Brad Blanton, it completely transformed my relationships and how I show up. And I want, every time that we try to cover things up, avoid things, not really speaking our truth, chips away at our truth, and it chips away of the joy and vibrancy that we want to experience in life, and it creates this deadening feeling and this numbness in place. Think of one person that you're having a really hard time where it's tense, or you're just not communicating and feeling like you have that love and support relationship that you want, whether you're butting heads or just not having those conversations that you should be having, but are holding back from actually having them. So number one is to stop the blame, stop the criticism, stop the judgments, recognize the manipulation in you. A lot of times we give our power away because we see somebody coming to us, whether it's like aggressive or blaming us, and we immediately want to meet them at that same level. But it's recognizing that we are 100% responsible for what we bring to the table, what we bring forth to the relationship, and owning that, taking our power back, taking the responsibility back of 100% responsibility for us. Just because somebody acts like a shithead to you, does it really make it right for you to react in the same way and be that shithead? No. That's how wars get started. That's how all this global nonsense is happening, is we've become so used to our primal reactive states that we don't really set an intention of how we show up in our relationship. So recognize where you are blaming somebody else, where you are judging and criticizing somebody else, where you trying to, manipulate somebody to be a certain way so that they fit into your mold. A lot of times we do that subconsciously and unintentionally, but yet when we experience it, that's the shittiest feeling ever, to know that somebody's trying to judge and blame us, or we become guarded. But if we continue to react from this guarded state, you're not going to have the authentic, honest, loving, supportive relationship that you want. So it's recognizing where your ego is showing up in your relationship as opposed to how you want to show up in your relationship. Because when you recognize that what somebody else is bringing, you're not going to react from that place. When you recognize that their attacks, their blames are just cries for help, and they want your attention, love, and support. And yes, it's easy to see it at the surface level and just to be like, I don't love you, and attack them back. But that's not going to create that synergistic, loving relationship. When you can see that somebody's coming to you hard, is they want that love and support and aren't feeling that they feel insecure, that they're scared. It makes it a little bit easier to not personalize it as much and recognize that they're human. Taking that personal responsibility means becoming your own parent. Because it's really viewing your life from the lens of your 5-year-old self. Is that serving you right now? You're an adult. How can you be a parent for yourself? Where do you need to pull yourself out of tense situations? Where do you need to create better, healthier boundaries so people don't cross them? See, this is about taking responsibility for 100% of ourselves. We take responsibility of what we allow in our lives, how we communicate that in our lives, and not blaming somebody else for being a shithead. You can communicate that without blowing a fuse. But when you recognize that you are the one that's responsible for this, nobody else. Everyone is a teacher teaching you a lesson to strengthening your character in what you tolerate, what you will allow in your life, and how you show up to respond to it. And that's another thing. Step number 2 is set the intention. When you consciously say this, with my mom, I want to have the most loving, compassionate, supportive relationship. With my spouse, I want to be the most honest, intimate, supportive relationship. With my siblings, I want to be open and supportive and loving. With my business partner, I want to make sure that he feels that I have his back and he has mine. When you set the intention of what you want, what these relationships look like, you're not going to, when you hear that negativity, that aggressiveness, keep that in mind. What do you need to do to remind yourself of the higher intention? How do you connect with yourself, your highest self, as before, during, and after in these radical, honest conversations, as you speak your truth? Because without the speaking of your truth, nothing changes. A lot of times we try to, numb and stuff and avoid the actual truth of what's really happening in the relationship, what's really working, what isn't, and it's easier to blame somebody than really speak what, I love you so much. I love our relationship. I want to be supportive and make sure that we have each other's backs. But this isn't working for me. This is what's showing up for me. What do you think? What do you feel? Completely different conversation, right? It's harder to get defensive when you don't put the blame on them. Saying, I want to take 100% responsibility for what I'm contributing to this relationship. This is what I've done that, maybe I've manipulated or convinced or blamed and resented you for. But this is also what I appreciate, what I love about you. What do you think? What do you see that isn't working for you? What do you think we can do to make this better? That's what I'm talking about, radical honesty. These are conversations that, you stop burying things, you stop ignoring things, you stop numbing. Because a lot of times we do that. And instead of opening up the door for real, authentic conversations, real, authentic relationships, it's easier to blame as opposed to take responsibility for what you bring and opening up the door for something to grow, for something to change and shift. Our truths are going to constantly change as we get older and grow up and, start to take more responsibility for what we bring to the table. But it has to start with you. This isn't about trying to fix the other person or to fix the situation. It's really just opening up that dialogue so that both you and the other person can speak your truth, can own your truth, can live your truth. The reality is that people today don't feel understood by their most important personal relationships. And whether you're a child or a high-level executive, we crave to have that support and love. And when we don't have that, it's the most heart-wrenching thing. So what I want you to do is to stand up. And I want you to feel grounded and centered and plant your feet firmly on the ground and close your eyes. I want you to envision your highest self, your strong, bold, courageous self. And they're standing to your right. And they're coaching you. So what are they telling you? Do you need to have that bold, courageous conversation? Do you need to open up and share your truth? Do you need to share or forgive somebody? What is this courageous self coaching you on to do? Now, what I want you to do is open your eyes. And in the comments below, write down a date that you are committed to having this conversation. Thought I'd let you get away, huh? I challenge you. As always, I'd love to close with an inspirational quote. Language has the power to evoke the being of human beings and rescue them from their own minds. Skill in the use of this kind of language develops through practice of telling the truth. The clearer I am willing to be about myself, the more clearly I can see others, and the more clearly I can speak to them. You too. Radical honesty. Always keep radiating your beautiful light to the world, living life with passion, purpose, and meaning. With love and belief in you, Yelena.